actual question. I don't know if any of you can see it, but the only reason I'm going live today is one, I'm on spring break. Two, it's raining and I don't want to go outside. And three, the state test is coming up in most states in the United States. And I'm going to talk about the Illinois state test and the California state test, and that's because I lived in both states. And the Illinois state test and the state test, first of all, those of you that have children in grades third through eighth grade in the state of California, it's grade 11 for English language arts and mathematics. And then also there is a science assessment in California. Um, Students take the assessment in California. They take English language arts and math and then science in one grade in high school. And Illinois, I'm going to assume it's the same. So I'm always wondering how many parents are like, I don't want my kids to take the test, or how do I study for the test? And if you, or like you just don't care. It's not graded in the sense like teachers don't grade that state assessment, the state does. But typically, kids have anxiety over this test. And I wish that I had this practice or somebody could have helped me when I was younger for the state test. Now, mind you, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have live, we just had this paper test. And for those of you that are on TikTok, but those of you that are on YouTube, I'm going to share my screen. But you can always go to my YouTube channel to see how I demonstrate this state test. In California, it's the California Assessment of Student Performance and Progress. In Illinois, they take the PARC. I don't even remember what that acronym is, but it is a smarter balance assessment. That means if they're in grade three, if students can access grade three, and it's easy if the questions actually know to get a little bit more difficult. If it's too difficult for them, the questions will get a little bit easier for them. And in California, we have this state assessment, and at the end of the school year, it's faster. Back in the day, it would take like a whole year to get the assessments back. But now you actually can get those assessments back, and at the end of the year, and parents can start to see them. And you're wondering, well, why does this matter? Well, in the state of California, 11th graders use that test as their early advancement to the university. So the University of California schools and the California states use that 11th grade English language arts and math test as their assessment that says, hey, you are college and or career ready. Like you can read at this level, and yes, we want to see your scores. Well, yes, they'll take an SAT or an ACT, but they don't really look at those in California. Well, they'll take it, but they're not requiring those state tests anymore. So typically, now I am an educator by trade, so I taught eighth grade science. So my students took the science test. Even when I was in Illinois, they took the science test typically with me. It doesn't mean I didn't, and it just depended on what group of students I had. But my first period is usually who I assessed. And what I found, and there were 5 things that I realized how I can help my students do well. And even in Illinois and in California, my students did really well. Patting myself on the back, but also what I learned was students needed to own that learning. And I just didn't do stand and deliver. I did a lot of science experiments with the students. Um, but one of the things that I realized that text anxiety is a thing. Like students do not like taking this assessment, and this assessment is not timed. The English language arts assessment can take a long time. Some students do well. Some students don't do as well as they would like. Yeah, I'm a total Star Wars fan. Those of you that are seeing people just put these on my desk where I work, like because they know that I like Star Wars and The Mandalorian, and I will go to Disney and get on the rides, or Galaxy's Edge at Disney here in California. So the questions are, I'm always wondering why parents what do they do with their students? Do they even know the assessment is coming up? Like in the state of California, we tell the parents like the assessment is coming up for us. The window starts in mid-April. But so what I'm doing is, let me put my coffee down. I am sharing my screen here on YouTube. So, and I'm not asking you to jump over there, but I wanted to go over like 5 things, 5 tips as to what you can do to prepare kids for the state assessment. Um, and really understanding the purpose of that state assessment. That's number one. But I'm going to show you like where test scores are. Like, did you even know that the test scores actually are somewhere and you can find them? They are published around October here in California, and you can go to what's called CAASPP results. Like, you can Google it, CAASPP results, and you can Google it. Now, if you're on YouTube, I have a QR code there. Um, but the CAASPP results give you the English language arts and math results. They also give you the science results. There are other assessments there too, like our Spanish assessment, especially those who want to be get the seal of biliteracy or multiliteracy. But if you go to the state assessment, you get to see scores based on a 4-point scale. You either exceeded, met, and that's where we want kids to be, nearly met, or not met. So number 1 is the not met, 2 is nearly met, 3 met, and 4 is exceeded. And in the state of California, we want students to do well on this assessment because when they go to 11th grade, they use that assessment to go into college. So the question is how do you prepare your students to take this assessment? And most parents don't realize that you actually can prepare your kids for the state assessment. Most people don't. So again, I'm on YouTube, MJ Blazy. If you wanted to see where I am, so that, but and I have a QR code, but you can go to, if you're in California, you can go to what's called Starting Smarter. And there are questions there that you can, maybe don't overwhelm your kids, by the way. A lot of teachers know about this, and they can practice with kids too. There's also practice assessments that you can give your kids in the state of California so that you can have them practice. The research shows that if you are in a situation and you're comfortable in that situation, you're more likely to do well in that situation. In other words, if you practice the test, if you know how to read the actual assessment, you read the question and or the statement, and you actually answer it for the statement, and you just don't assume how to answer it. You know how to expand it and things like that. So, and what I'm showing you, if you are on YouTube, I'm showing you what that state assessment is. CAASPP results, I recommend it. State of California, you can look at it. PARC for Illinois. And this assessment is super profound. It really gives us as educators a scope on what we need to do differently. And understanding the purpose of the assessment isn't to punish children. And sometimes people want to opt out because they're like, I don't want to know. But what it does is it helps us understand what we need to do differently and how to support the students in the coming year. And because we want students to exceed. In the state of California, well, every state in the United States, there are schools that take the national assessment, the NAEP, and we are rated. Illinois and Ohio are like in the top 10 in mathematics. Like I'm so proud that I was born in Illinois. Um, California, a little bit lower, around 41 in mathematics, but we're a really state, so we have more students. We take a similar assessment. They're both smarter assessments, meaning they can, as you take that assessment, it gets easier or harder depending on the child's ability. So again, if you go to Starting Smarter in California, it gives you an opportunity to practice test questions with your kids. Also in Illinois, there's a study guide, like it's studyguide.com. You can go to PARCC exams. That one you have to have a login. I don't know that I would recommend that, but I do have it in front of me. But also Illinois Assessment of Readiness has, and I'm going to put that QR code up for you if you're on YouTube, just so you can see it. The state assessment in Illinois and California are very similar. meaning again they're harder, but they have practice assessments. So if you have a student in California or Illinois, grades 3rd through 8th grade, they take the English language arts assessment. It's coming, and they take the mathematics assessment. And back in the day, we used to take the assessment, and there was like the A, B, C, D, E answers. Um, Literally, we used to help kids try to process that. Then there's one open-ended question. But now it's these questions are not what you think they are. So I wanted to show you some sample problems. So some of the sample items in the state of California, if you go to sampleitems.smarterbalance.org, these I actually really like them. So I'm going to place a QR code um, on YouTube. So sample items, so that you can see it. And these are the sample items that you can use for your kids. I recommend them. I like them. They will feel rigorous, but your kids are ready. Like, teachers are amazing in the state of California. And if you're thinking, well, why do they need to take the test? Well, if you're in California, we take the California Basic Skills Test. If you got a degree, you may have taken the GRE. If you went to med school, you took the MCAT. If you went to law school, you took the LSAT. There are exams out there that we take. It is what it is. But it also informs us on what we need to do to improve as educators, and it helps us inform children on what they need to do to how we can help support them and where they are academically. Because I truly believe that no two students are the same. And what the state of California does is it compares the student to the student. So if you go to the browse the items, I love this. I actually really like this, browsing the items on the state assessment. Again, I'm on the sample items in the state of California. Again, UJ Blazy. I know some of you have hopped over to YouTube because you can see me better, because I'm sharing my screen. But the sample items, if you have a child in the state of California that's taking that state assessment, this is a really great place for them to hang out. Now, if you're a teacher and you didn't know about these are really nice, like, because these are open to the public. And let's say you wanted to assign a practice homework problem, don't punish them if they don't do it. But if you assign these, for example, you can choose grade level. Now I'm going to make it just slightly bigger just so that you can really super see it. You can choose the language, English language arts, or mathematics. Now this, as you can see, doesn't have the science one. In the state of California, grades 5, 8, and 1 grade in high school actually takes the state assessment, or this one doesn't have the science, but 5, 8, and 1 grade in high school takes the science assessment. But even if they take the assessment in grade, say Illinois and other states, Illinois takes the PARC, we take the CAASPP in California. These assessments aren't just assessed on 5th grade standards. They're assessed on K through 5 standards. In my mind, why are we not assessing them in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade? But as a science teacher, I assessed in 8th grade. And I knew that 8th graders were going to be assessed on standards in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So that was just a scope that I really focused on. And then in the 1 grade in high school, it is normal for them to take it in 11th grade, this state assessment. The science one in California, I'm not sure where it is in Illinois. I haven't taught there in a while. Back in the late 1900s, I taught in Illinois. But that state assessment really gives us a scope on what that is. So if you want to see this, you can Google sample items in the state of California. You can also go to the practice test, and that this test, I am going to go into some of these sample items, but that practice test, if you wanted to go to, all you have to do is go to CAASPP, CAASPP, the California Assessment of Performance and Progress.org, and practice and training test. The training test in the state of California for grades 3rd through 8th, in grade 11, that helps a student navigate the system. The practice test mimics the actual exam. So you can go to the student interface and just practice with your child if you want to. You can go in as a guest. It's going to ask you to select a grade level. But if you select fifth grade, there is a science practice test and a science training test. But in the sample items, there's not a science. You can go in there and practice some of the test questions with them in grades fifth grade, eighth grade, and then a high school one. And I highly recommend that. But the other reason why I recommend going into the practice test, and I'm going to show you, just go through everything, you select it, there's a sound, you can hear that. It says I could play the sound, begin test now. And this one, again, it gives you a sample question. And you can just mimic it. You can practice with where the notepad is, the strike through, the highlighter, things like that. So just something to think about. The other thing that those sample items that I really like, let me go back to sample items. The sample items for English language arts and math, I wish that I knew about these sample items even my kids were in school. And I even worked at their school with them. And I didn't even know about these sample items. But you can select a grade, whether it's English language arts, and it'll give you all of the assessment sample questions. You can select a claim, whether it's writing, listening, or the research and inquiry, and then kind of break it down. It tells you what the standard is. This is perfect for teachers if you didn't know that there were the sample items. And again, if you're on, I have that QR code, but you can Google sample items SBAC, SBAC, Smarter Balance Assessment Consortium around. I recommend it. I personally recommend it. And then in mathematics, you also have the claims. If you ever saw the state standards, they say concepts and procedures, problem solving, communicating and reasoning, and modeling and data analysis. And I like parents to see this because if you actually go to the assessment where we can see the test scores, and you go down underneath the assessment where it gives you the scores. By the way, it gives you the met or exceeded added together. If you go, it shows you the claim information. So these claims information, they're being assessed on this as well. When I showed you those sample items, these are the claim English language arts. And if I go back here and I go up and change it to math, it'll also show you those claims as well here. So it shows you, so concepts and procedures, problem solving and modeling and data analysis on the state assessment. Just know that one, excuse me, are combined on the state assessment. But if you were looking at the sample items, they break them apart in mathematics. And you can see that because problem solving and modeling and data analysis are separate. And I like going in these problems so you can actually see these assessments. And I do have a favorite. Let me go and find one of my favorite ones. It's a short answer. I think it's this one. It's not this one, but I'm going to show, let me at least show you this. This mimics what the state assessment looks like too, like you end this part, meaning the actual information that students need to read and you want to score, because sometimes students don't realize there's more information. And then you can close that. And then you have a few, usually not just one question, you might have more than one question. So that while I scroll, that this is part of the question here or statement that they need to answer. And then there's another one and then another one. Sometimes these performance tasks, there's a lot about them. So it's giving me like more like this. So there's another one. Let's see, table interaction. This one, again, is practice opening them with your child, your student. Close it and then go ahead to see how many of these questions. Now I did select third grade. So this is what we're asking kids in third do. And then I'm going to go back to the sample items. And the reason why, there's one that I really do like in math and modeling and data analysis. And I want to see if I can find it. It is, let's see, that's a table interaction. let's see if it's this one. It's this. I like this one because this one, you can talk to your child about this. Again, state of California, it's coming, third through eighth grade and one grade in high school, and in Illinois. Illinois takes the park. I don't know what that acronym is. Probably could look it up. In California, it's the CAASPP, the California Assessment of Student Performance and Progress. And this is an assessment that, and in 11th grade, they use it to get into the University of California schools and the California state schools. So this problem itself, this is what I like about this problem. Is because it gives you a scope. It tells you what the student wants. Jenna made a picture graph in which each star represents some number of students. Now, and if I was a parent or a student or a teacher, I would say, okay, there, look at the graph. What does it tell you? It's got a column that is color, red, blue, yellow, and green, and number of votes. Notice there are 2 stars in the first row and then 4 stars in each of the other rows, for example. So again, I'm on YouTube, MJ Blaze. I know some of you hopped over there because I'm sharing my screen, but test anxiety is a thing. Students in the grades that get assessed in California or other states, I like for them to understand and have scope around not getting anxious on their test. So understanding the purpose of the assessment really helps, especially for parents. Teachers know it's to inform what we do as educators to help us change what we're doing maybe next year, maybe get some professional development. It also tells us where our students are and what we can do differently the next year. It also helping our kids manage test anxiety. When I was still in the classroom, again, middle school science, eighth graders took a state assessment for science. One of the things that I would tell them is that I have to read the test rules verbatim, like verbatim. But I didn't like what it would say. It would say some of these questions will be hard and some will be harder. So I would tell the kids, like, when I say that, say some of these questions will be easier and some will be easy, some will be easier. Like, but I couldn't say that. But I warned them that you have the right to change your mindset of the assessment. You need to do the best you could possibly do on that state assessment. That's how you can manage the anxiety. It's not timed, especially in the state of California, managing what we do and what we do differently. And then communicating with the teacher, like telling teachers, like, my child is a little overwhelmed. What can I do? And then feed your child before they get to school. If they are on a free and reduced program, we feed them at the school sites to make sure that they have a full belly, because you can't focus when you're hungry. And you know that if you drive, because if you drive and you're hungry, you turn off the radio, you turn off the music, you turn off your Audible book. You're like, I got to focus. I'm hungry. That, and if you have to go to the bathroom for that matter. The other thing that you want to do is you want to just practice. You want to go and manipulate the test. You want to go to the practice test items. You want to go to the training to go through just to manage what it looks like. When children get in front of assessments, when you put yourself in a new situation, if you picture yourself in the new situation, you do better. You bring down your anxiety, that cortisol level that you're like, oh my gosh, fight and flight. You don't need that in a test. You just need to breathe and tell students you're going to do great. And of course, teachers will read that assessment verbatim as well. So again, when looking at these state test items, this one, again, let me just open this one up again, is then it says she forgot to complete key. Find the key. Like, there it is. There is a key. Its key represents, it's got a question mark and a star. So it's telling you something on that state assessment. Again, parents, your children, 3rd through 8th grade in the state of California and 11th grade, they're taking that state assessment. And you can prepare them by going to Starting Smarter. There are sample items. I have the QR code on my YouTube channel, MJ Blazy. Or you can just Google Starting Smarter. The other thing is you can Google Starting Smarter for that ELA, math, and science, 5th, 8th, and 1st grade in high school for science. And you can also Google the sample items if you're on TikTok with me. Test anxiety is a thing. And a lot of parents opt out and not knowing that in the state of California, the University of California schools and the Cal State universities take the 11th grade test as one of their entry scores. They might take that SAT and ACT, but with all the controversy that came about with the SAT at like USC and other universities and people cheating, teachers, we are have a security protocol that we go through as leaders in the district and with teachers, so that assessment is secure. And the assessment is rigorous. And when they take the assessment with their teachers that they know, they tend to do better. And that 11th grade test is the one they use. And it is a shock when parents realize that they wanted to opt out, which is, your choice. They opt out. And then in 11th grade, it's the first time they saw the assessment. And we as educators really appreciate when students take the assessment, because then we can change and inform what we're doing in the classroom. We can say, okay, students did this, but it's on me to change what I'm doing. And then maybe something I missed. Maybe they didn't practice even manipulating the assessment. So it's taking them a lot longer, increasing their anxiety and their cortisol levels. Like, I don't even know what to do with this assessment. That's key. Now, I am looking at one of the sample items and having conversations about those sample items and looking at how to manipulate it. Now, these are sample items. They are public. You can let your child play with them. You can manipulate them. Please, if you are the parent that is like, I need you to do well. I was that parent. Don't overwhelm them. Do it with them. Talk to them about it. 3rd grade assessment, if you saw some of these sample items, those of you that are on YouTube can see this. This is 3rd grade. And you're like, oh my gosh. And if I were to log in to show you what they do in 10th grade, in 11th grade in high school on ELA and mathematics, it's a lot. It is a lot. So going back to this assessment problem, now we've read all of this, but here's what it's saying. It's saying the difference between the number of students who voted for blue. Let's look at blue. This is what I would tell students. There are 4 stars there. And the number of students who voted for red is greater than 5. So it said red. So we're talking about blue and red stars is greater than 5, but less than 9. So what do we do with this? What do we do with this? Enter a possible number of students that each star could represent. I'm going to tell you there are 2 answers. Well, what do we need to do? Okay. We know we're talking about red and blue. We see that we have a key. That star represents some number. You can do it by process of elimination. But the difference needs to be between 5 and 9. So it's saying the difference between red and blue. Key, go to it. You see it. So use 2. We're like, okay, so each star represents 2. So this star represents 2 and this star represents 2. So what's that together? 2 groups of 2 is 4. And then 4 groups of 2, 4 times 2 is 8. But then it said the difference between the 2. So first of all, we did one problem. We did it by one-to-one correspondence. We said this is equal to 2. Star equal to 2. Then we did multiplication. This is and we said 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2, or 4 times 2 is 8. We did another multiplication problem, but we have to do the difference. What is that? Subtraction. So the difference between 8 and 4 is 4. Is that between 5 and 9? No. So we know it's not 2. Let's just try 3. 3 times 2. So 2 groups of 3, 6. Okay. This is 4 groups of 3. So we have 4 groups and they're each worth 3. 12. Now we did a correspondence. We said the star is equal to 3. We did multiplication. Multiplication here. We have 12 and 6. 12 minus 6 is 6. Is that between 5 and 9? Yes. And typically, immediately I say, so what's the answer? Kids will start shout 6. Well, that's not the answer. The answer is enter the possible number of students that each star could represent. Right there. It's 3. The other answer is 4. So these are that they would just enter this, but this was a one question or statement problem, and that. You can more about this item. It gives you the correct response here. You can click on it. As a parent, you may want to just see that first. So these are things that you can do. Now, of course, you're like, what if I don't know how to do this? Now, AI is here and you're like, I don't know what to do with this. I don't even know where to start. Like, what should I do in order to help my child if I don't know how to do these problems? That's a good question. That is a great question. So I recommend, and again, you can't do this on the test because they're assessing the child. But what you can do is you can go to that sample problem and you can grab it. You could grab it, you could highlight it. Now this is the free version. So I already know and not put this in the ChatGPT free version. So I know that I'm probably going to need to take a picture of it. I'm going to take a picture of it. And now I'm going to take my picture. I am going to go here. We're going to go to the 4.0. We're going to go to the desktop. There it is. We're going to upload it. Okay. And then to do is, as I need to find where I am because I don't even know where I am anymore. Okay. I'm going to say and those of you that are on TikTok, I'm demonstrating how you can help your child on the state assessment in the state of California. I am a parent of a student in grade 3. I don't know how to help my child with this problem. Walk me through it. Now, I already walked you through it. So the question is, again, if you're on TikTok, you can jump over to YouTube to see this. I walked you through how to do this on my own, but let's work through the problem. You have it where each star represents a certain number of students' votes for their favorite color. The key part of the graph, which indicates exactly how many students are represented by each star, is missing. But we have a clue to figure it out. The difference between the number of students who voted for blue and the number of students who voted for red. Here's how we can solve it, okay? Now, it's telling us, let's count the stars. Red has 2 stars. Now, I already know that blue does not have 5 stars. I'm going to actually have to tell it, you're wrong. Check the number of stars for blue. So this is the part of AI that you're like, not sure. Okay. So now I'm going to show it again. Blue has 4 stars. Okay. And I'm doing this because I actually want the AI to figure it out. So again, if you're on TikTok about, well, state of California, 3rd through 8th grade and high school takes a state assessment. And practice items that 3rd through 8th graders can do in English language, arts, and mathematics, and then and in high school. And then the science assessment for grades 5, 8, and 1 grade in high school. Typically, many school districts do it in 11th grade, had 2 years of science. So just know that's what I'm talking about. And you have access to, if you're on YouTube, the sample items. I gave you a QR code there. What I'm saying is that you can use AI if you're like, I have no idea how to help my child. Now, the students have access, well, they won't have AI in their state assessment, but you as a parent can say, okay, I AI to help me through this. And that's what it's doing. Um, and it gave me the right answer. It's either 3 or 4 for the state assessment for this sample problem that I'm doing. Learning is that students have test anxiety, and they could have test anxiety because as a parent, test anxiety. So if I had that test anxiety as a parent, I might be putting that on my child. Teachers are really skilled at saying, I am here to help you with, your the learning that you're having in the classroom. And then what I want to do is make sure that you know what's happening on the state assessment. I want to know how you've done so that I can improve what I'm doing as an educator. And then at the end of the school year and next year, what I can do differently in the classroom. So that's huge. But I wanted to go back and just kind of show you what this said. It said if the blue has 4 stars and the red has 2 stars, then the difference in the count of stars is 4 minus 2. Now, I would say, give me a script on how to help my child now that you did this correctly. Also, know that the assessment has 2 answers. Now, for those of you that are here, my goal is to help you help your child on the state assessment. The Smarter Balanced Assessment Consortium that own what they're doing on that state assessment. There are sample items for students. There, also what I really like is the Starting Smarter. Let me find Starting Smarter. Here it is, Starting Smarter, which is amazing. This is a free resource for parents. You can choose the subject area. If your child takes the alternate assessment, meaning they typically access the typing, maybe they have a cognitive disability, they would take the alternate assessments. But if they take the English language arts assessment and you select your grade, it'll give you, and these are the claims, by the way, it doesn't say that, but maybe you want to see how they would do, say, in listening. Do is select that and it'll give you sample items. And of course they have to listen to this, but this is something you could do with your child. Fun, please make it fun. Maybe one every other day and say, well, tell me about this. When you give them this quality time, they tend to have less anxiety and when they're taking the assessment. The assessment is there to help us inform what we're doing as educators. And then at the beginning of the school year, we use that assessment information to inform us how the student did as well. So this right here is just amazing. So again, if you're on TikTok, MJ Blazy, the recording will be there. I'm on YouTube as well. But those sample items, you can just Google it to jot that down. Sample items for CAASPP, Smarter Balanced Assessment Consortium, or you can go to Starting Smarter in the state of California. If you are, say, in Illinois, I use Illinois as well. They take PARCC, PARCC, Illinois Assessment Readiness. There are practice tests, exemplars that they released. You can go to that. It's you can just Google Illinois Assessment Readiness, that comes up. But if you're on YouTube, I did go ahead and give you a QR code. So if you go back and the recording is available, you can see that as well. I'm also on Facebook too, as well. And this is an area that I really like to help so that their child isn't like overwhelmed with the assessment. And I think it's a fun way for you to interact, give them some quality time, and ask them questions about the state assessment. And again, in the state of California, that 11th grade assessment, I'm going to actually show you this CAASPP, EAP, the early assessment program. This is the California Department of Education. It tells you that the early assessment program is designed to provide students with an early signal of college academic preparation through the CAASPP. This is what we use for the College Board when they are applying. And what I mean by we, the University of California schools and the Cal State universities. Not necessarily the SAT or the ACT. I'm not saying they won't take that SAT or ACT, but with all the scandals and all, students who take these assessments and people cheating, We have a test security that is amazing at school districts. So that's why that is available to your child. So if they've not taken it third through eighth grade and the first time they see it is in 11th grade, they may not have performed because there's research that says that if students put themselves in a situation, if you as an adult put yourself in a situation or picture yourself in a situation, you tend to be calmer, your cortisol levels are lower, and you tend to do better. For example, I used to take my kids on university walks. There's research that says that if a 10-year-old has sat and had lunch with other college students, they are more likely to go to college. Now, I'm not saying that all students should go to college, but they're more likely to go to college because they've already been there and they're comfortable. Taking them to sporting events at colleges and universities, putting them in an environment that makes them it's safe and it's and if they that the same goes to if they're comfortable in very dangerous environments, they're more likely to do those things later. So that's why I wanted to share with you these assessment tools that you can use. And text anxiety is a thing. It truly is a thing. And I know that as a child, I remember being anxious. And my mom kept my test scores. Well, you can get them quickly now because they're all, online through a safe portal. She gave me this great purple box, my twin sister too, and gave us our test scores. And I used to be like so worked up. I actually did okay. I used to think I did terrible. But I remember seeing those test scores like, oh, I did okay. But I was always anxious and didn't know that Gen X kids, we were always like, there was no mental health. Even if there was, it was like, suck it up, go drink out the hose and go rub some dirt on it, right? That's just the way it is. But now we can support our kids because we understand there's research around becoming worked up and increasing your cortisol levels and how we can breathe and bring those things down. So thank you so much for those of you that have been hanging out with me on YouTube. I appreciate you. And again, if you're on TikTok, go to MJ Blazy. You can see that information. The recording probably will be available. It might be available right away on YouTube and on Facebook, but go have fun with it and just watch the recording at your leisure. So again, thank you again